Okay.
So, Simon, let's look back on the FA Cup run in 81-82. First of all, it's 40 years ago now. That's amazing that time's gone by so quickly, isn't it?
time. The older you get, the faster time goes by. So yeah, time's really flying by at the minute. But yeah, it's 40 years. I keep in touch with one or two people, and who were involved in that run to Wembley, and yeah, it's amazing. We're all sick as you can get that we can't still play.
Okay, well let's go back through it. We were drawn against Middlesbrough in the third round at Loftus Road, and they were in the first division. We were in the second division, so no one gave us a chance really. We were 1-0 down, and I think you scored a great goal to equalise. Do you remember that day and the start of the cup run?
Yeah, I remember. You know, the pitch conditions weren't great, and we, as you say, we went a goal down. But I think we really dominated the game, as I remember it. And I've got no idea who played a ball through, like a ball. You know, I latched onto a through ball and got a one-on-one with a goalie, and I've never missed one of those. So that was like a certain goal, and we got a draw, and you know, it was. I mean, there's a complicated story coming up that'll take me a while to explain. But after that game, Jim Gregory was so delighted that we got a draw, and he was so pleased that I'd scored. He told me he'd reserved 4 places at his favourite Italian restaurant near his company at Roehampton, and he said, "Bring your wife and bring a couple of friends tonight and have a nice dinner." So I went to the restaurant with the wife, and I had, I can tell you exactly what I had because I went very well afterwards. I had a seafood spaghetti. By Sunday, about 12 o'clock, I'd rung Terry Venables and said, "Listen, I can't come in, I'm dying." And I lost about 2 stone in 2 days, just being sickness and diarrhea. I had terrible food poisoning. And I didn't travel with a team up to Middlesbrough. I can't remember if the game was a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but I'd had nothing to eat between Saturday night and having this seafood spaghetti that killed me, and eventually Venice was asking me, "Can you come up? Can you come up?" And I got a train from King's Cross up to Darlington, I think. Got picked up in Darlington, driven to the team hotel. Everybody had finished lunch there, and I came into the hotel. I must have looked terrible. And Venner's like said, you won't be able to play, Simon, like, you know. And I said, "Just get me something to eat." I said, "I'm going to have something to eat, see how I feel." And like I say, it was the first thing I'd had to eat since I've been sick since Saturday night. And I didn't feel like I could play at all, but I'm one of these people that thinks if I'm going to play, we're going to win. I was always a bit like that, like, you know. So I told him I was all right and played. And I think obviously Warren Neal scored the winner, didn't he? But I got the first 2, and you know, 2 decent goals as well. It was a hard game. It's a hard place to go on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night when it's freezing cold, and like they've got their crowd behind them. Ayresome Park was like a really, really difficult place to go and play, and the fact that I think we were not 2 goals down.
I think, yeah, we come from behind, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure. I can't remember everything like, but was it not in extra time that Warren Neal scored the winner?
Diving header. Yeah.
Was it a diving header or a volley? I thought it was a volley.
Warren says it's a diving header, so I think it was a diving.
Oh well, he'd know better than me. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got the first.
Yeah. So I was right to pick myself.
Fantastic. Then the next round, it was Blackpool. We went up there on a Saturday, and it was 0-0. I think it was really windy and cold, and we were lucky to come away from there with a 0-0 because I think they had quite a few chances, didn't they?
Well, that was a horrible, horrible game. It's like if you're ever going to win anything in football, you've got to go through games like that. But it was awful, and they'd got a couple of big lads up front that were difficult. They played quite direct football. Like you say, it was a bumpy pitch. It was windy. Everything was against a footballing team that liked to get down and play. It was against us, and we got away with murder as well. Like so, I was come back for defending a free kick or a corner or whatever, and he got cleared, and then it came back in, and it was going to their centre forward. I think it's Mike Bamber. I think their centre forward was big lad, a bit like Mick Harford. And I wouldn't swear to this, but I'm pretty sure Tony Curry stuck his hand up and just like managed to get it off his head. So we couldn't have argued if there'd been a penalty there. And then in the we got away with a draw, and in the replay we battered them, didn't we? We I think we beat them 4-1, was it?
It was 5-1. Clive Allen scored 4. You scored a penalty, and we did the job that night, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, Clive. Clive on form at home against Blackpool. Once he was quite bright, Clive, and if you thought he was up against somebody that was a bit easier, he used to get 4 or 5. So he's like kept his average up. So yeah, we beat him, and I haven't looked any of this up. I think am I right in saying next game's Grimsby?
That's right, Grimsby 3-1 at home. You scored the first goal. Clive Allen scored. Ernie Howe with a header, and we were on a roll by that stage, weren't we, in the FA Cup?
Yeah, but Grimsby were quite a good team. Like at that time, they got a good manager and they played good football. I think did they have Kevin Drinkle up front, who ended up playing at Rangers in Scotland? It was good. So, yeah. It was a good striker, and they were a solid team. I think they were in the same league as us, weren't they?
They were, yeah. We were in the second division, and they were below us. Division.
Yeah, and but a good solid performance. Yeah, it was like. To be honest, I can't remember my goal in that game, but probably a world beater like all of them.
Yeah.
So it was when you get that run going, and we were playing quite well in the league as well. We've got a good team. We're playing football. You do start to get that little feeling about that stage when you're playing, Grimsby, and you see them off. You are interested in who you're going to draw next and what's going to happen, and there's a little bit of anticipation, and a bit of hope and a bit of desire, and training brightens up as well. Like everybody wants to play and everybody's excited. So I can remember as they used to have the draw on a lunchtime.
That's right, the radio.
And after training, we'd all get together in the cafe at Greenford, where we used to train, and we'd sit there and listen to the draw. And I think next out the hat was Crystal Palace, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Crystal Palace in the quarter-final at Loftus Road, and in my opinion, that's the best atmosphere ever at Loftus Road. It was such a tight game, wasn't it? And Clive Allen scored the winning goal right at the end. That was an incredible occasion, wasn't it?
It was that game is one of the hardest, toughest, battling games I've played in. Like players like Jim Cannon against you, and Crystal Palace were a good team at that stage, and they were aggressive, and one or two nasty players that could sort you out a bit, and it was a battle. I think Steve Wicks played against us in that, didn't he? He was playing centre half, and to be honest, like I Wicks is a pal of mine, but I used to quite like playing against Wicks. Yeah, I could wind him up a bit, and draw him into false positions and get him one-on-one, and then I'd tie his legs together for him. But he was a really, really good centre half. But he knocked me around a bit in that game. To be fair to him, he tried to bully me.
So
But,
and the scenes at the end of that where Clive scored, he ran the full length of the pitch to celebrate in front of the Palace fans, didn't he? Because he used to play for him.
Yeah. Well, it's not just because he used to play for him. He'd had a bit of stick off him as well, like, you know. And then he scored. It's a good finish, like, and it's right at the end of the game. And I think it's one of the best goal celebrations you'll ever see, because you couldn't provoke a group of supporters you'd get fined if you did that these days.
Do you remember as well, in the very last seconds, the referee blew his whistle for a free kick, but all the fans thought it was the final whistle. Everybody spilled on, and then there were hundreds of fans round the side of the pitch for the last minute or so. It was like a human touchline, and you were dribbling in and out of fans. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Were there not some horses on there as well at that time? You know, some police horses to get the crowd back.
There were all sorts of things going on. It was incredible.
Yeah. It was. And, you know, when we obviously final whistle finally goes, I came off that pitch wearing a pair of slips. That's all I'd got on. The fans ripped everything off me. It's like socks went, boots went, shirt was off. I've never experienced anything quite like it. And in the dressing room as well, like, you know, the atmosphere amongst that, we had a great set of lads there, and you know, we were all quite strong characters, like, you know, we like to laugh, and we would have had a good night out after that as well.
Great stuff. And those games were played on the plastic pitch at Loftus Road. People used to say we had an advantage, but we had a very good away record as well in those days, didn't we?
Yeah. I think sometimes you could argue that the away record was better than the home record, but the away record was down to having very good disciplined defenders organised by Terry Venables. He more or less created a way of playing which is very difficult for teams to play through us. And he used to force the game down the middle of the pitch and squeeze them and then press up and play offside as well. Like, but we were really good at playing offside. And a lot of that was down to Terry Fenwick as well, who took the responsibility of organising that for TV on the pitch. And he had a couple of signals that he used to use, and the lads knew what the signals were. And it was like, you know, you drop a little bit and then out you go, and you're leaving them. As soon as you pass it forward, they're offside. And so teams, we used to let teams attack us, and then you know, be patient, play for the offside, but then also we were very good on the break. You know, we got good players that didn't get the ball away and could play forward passes. You know, Tony Curry was one of the best passers of a ball that ever played football, and John Gregory making runs from midfield past people. You know, if I was in a space, you know, I'd come short, leave the space in behind, and he'd go in behind and he'd get balls played in. And it was just really, really clever football. And, you know, all that is down to the players wanting it, being convinced by Terry Venables it was the right thing to do, and Terry coming up with this plan of and a way of playing that we could always fall back on. And we always used to fall back on it, mostly away from home, because you know, it suited us to let teams attack us, make it difficult for them, and then break. And we used to murder teams that were, you know, decent teams away from home. So yeah, you're right. But that's, for me, all down to Terry Venables.
You were the number 10, which always was a much cherished shirt at QPR, going back to the days of Rodney Marsh, Stan Bowles, and so on. But you relished that number 10 shirt, didn't you, as a skillful player?
Well, as a kid growing up, you know, my number was always 10. You know, I've even played in like other roles on a pitch, but I've always played number 10. And for me, number 10 does, wherever you go, signify something. I know a few players like Ronaldo and Beckham, they've had number 7, and George Best had number 7. But for me, there's only one number 7. That was George Best. But number 10 is historically the I don't want to say best player, most creative player in the team. I live in France now, and all teams who have a number 10, it's always their most creative player. It doesn't have to necessarily be someone who plays off the front two that's a number 10 role traditionally, a bit like Zidane, if you like, or Platini in France. But they are almost always the players that have that little bit of extra skill. And I always considered myself to be more skillful than most of them that I play with. And so to wear the number 10 shirt at QPR never felt like it was a heavy shirt to wear. But I would say that I love Rodney Marsh, watching him play. I really liked Stan Bowles. I used to love his couldn't care less attitude. Don't listen to coaches. Do your own thing. Be your own man. And but he backed it up with goals and passes and his work rate and everything. For me, the number 10 shirt, to be number 10 at QPR was sort of like an ambition. I mean, I could have gone to Chelsea before I went to QPR. I wasn't thinking of being there number 10, but when I went I knew it meant more at QPR. And to be the number 10 at QPR, for me, meant you'd really arrived. And I loved it.
We love you. Now, let's move on to the semi-final. It was West Brom again in the top flight, and all the build-up before that game was about Cyril Regis, wasn't it? He was on fire. He was getting in the England squad. He was scoring loads of goals. People were saying he was absolutely unstoppable. But we had a plan, didn't we?
Well, we had a plan. I think basically Bob Hazel took it upon himself that it was his responsibility to out Cyril, if you like. He just, Cyril was quick, strong, direct. I mean, he got a good touch, Cyril, as well, and he was a goal scorer. But Bob was big, strong, quicker, and on that day, he was fantastic. He was just awesome. And we had everything in place with the defensive way that we played, the squeezing up. But the actual hunger in both sides in that game, I don't think it was probably a fantastic exhibition of football. But I think, was it Andy King broke his nose in a collision with Bob as well. There was like a ball broke free and Bob went in for it and Andy went for it. He tripped up and he fell on his knee and broke his nose. There was a lot of violence in that game. I was playing against experienced centre halves. I've spoken to Brendan Batson since recently, and he was saying they thought they were going to win playing football, and he said they were surprised at the power and the determination and the aggression that we matched them with, because they got a tough team. The two centre halves were I've played against them off and on, up until that point, and they'd always try to hurt me. I always come through the back. In these days, the first 20 minutes of a game, the defenders can hurt you. But the togetherness of the players, the like you say, the determination, and what really made it for me was the sea of fans behind the goal. It was just, you couldn't really imagine it. We were playing at Highbury, and I just thought what it must be like for Arsenal players playing there all the time if they got that kind of support. And the QPR fans and the West Brom fans were fantastic that day. But after the game, again with the fans, it was just unbelievable. Like in the dressing room in Highbury, you can stand on a ledge and there's like frosted glass, but you can open a window so we got a window and be about three of us with our heads stuck out looking for our parents and gonna get me going this.
It was amazing. I was out in the street myself. You were all covered in shampoo hanging out the window. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was like
absolutely
just
fantastic. And then you're through to the FA Cup final. It's QPR's first ever appearance in an FA Cup final, our only appearance. And in those days, it was the biggest occasion of the football season, wasn't it?
Yeah. You know, as a kid growing up, I had two ambitions. One was to play for England, and the other one was to play in an FA Cup final. And you know, when you're a kid and you're watching an FA Cup final, and I'd been to an FA Cup final with a friend of mine. We went to watch Arsenal against Ipswich when Ipswich won, and so you know the whole day, but it's not the whole day. It's when you win the semi-final, the preparation and the press attention and the interviews, it just builds from the moment that you've qualified to be in the final, and you do everything differently. I'm not actually sure it's a good idea, but when you're a team and you get to the final, you organize things so you stay more often in hotels. You do different type of training. You train in different places. You know, you're kept away a little bit from what would be in normal circumstances. And me personally, I don't think that helped us. I think that in the week of the build up, maybe even 2 weeks to build up to the actual game, I think we changed too many things. You know, where we trained and staying in hotels, and I think getting to the game, because we did it that way, took too long. Me personally, I would have just liked to have kept it as it was and train at Greenford, and you know, not have to be all together all the time doing promotional stuff. You know, I think that got in the way of a better performance, really. I think we were a good enough team to beat Spurs, and you know, we probably should have won the second game, but you know, everybody's got their own view on it. I think somebody like Terry Fenwick would probably revel in the extra preparation. You know, there are certain players that would, like you know, Gary Waddock would probably revel in that. But I, you know, I like to do my training and get away from it and be at home and take my dog a walk. And I just felt like, anyway, it is what it is, isn't it? You know, I've never done it before, never done it since, so I don't really know. Can't compare it.
The first game very tight, and then obviously Hoddle gave them the lead. But we came back. You launched in a long throw, which was flicked on by Bob Hazel, and Terry Fenwick scored. And that was a really long throw by yourself, and we deserved that goal, didn't we?
Yeah, we deserved the goal. The long throw is something that we work on in training, but I have to say, but Bob's back header is about as good a back header as you could ever get. And Fen, you know, he knew he was going to score. You could see he knows he's going to score before he heads it. And it was a very, very tight game. You know, not a lot of chances in it. It was tough. You know, it's aggressive. You're playing against Graham Roberts, Paul Miller. They got some, you know, Steve Perryman, all these players that are around my spot. They don't make it easy for you. And we try to do the same thing with Glenn Hoddle, with trying to deny him space on the ball. But, you know, he's a clever player, Hoddle, isn't he? You know, he's been getting space against Man United and Liverpool, so he'd probably get space against us. And yeah, in the end, he was the difference between the two teams, wasn't he? I think if Clive had not got injured, you know, might be a different story.
Yeah, onto the replay, and they scored early from a penalty by Hoddle, but we dominated after that, didn't we? We did everything but score.
Yeah, we were unlucky, and I mean, the goal gets disallowed for I can't remember, it's handball or something like that, but that goal being disallowed, it should never have been disallowed. And but there are other chances, like, you know, when I think Gab hit a diagonal ball over the defender on the right hand side, and Gregor side foots the volley right onto the bar. You know, I mean, if that goes in, it's a great goal. Everybody will be going, "Oh, what a goal! What a goal!" And you know, Clemens made a couple of saves. It was hard. It was you know, after the first game, it was almost like winning it, because we were 1-0 down, and then we got the equaliser. And at the end of the first game, I was basically getting the ball off Peter Hooker to kill time, so that, you know, so we could get another chance. And you know, I must have been doing that, thinking, well, if we play them again, we'll beat them. So otherwise, you know, I would have been thinking, well, we've got a goal back, let's go and get another one. And I didn't think that. So I was thinking, on the day, they're probably, you know, they were probably a bit better than us on the first game. But the second game, yeah, it is. And again, you've got Saturday night, when you've got a banquet booked in a hotel, and you're going to go there, and it's quite a bit of a celebration, because we've come back and we've got another go at it. You've got to celebrate. You've got to, so, you know, we're gonna have a bit of a party, and then you've got to, next day, Sunday, you've got to start and prepare yourself for Thursday for the next match. And that was hard, like, you know, because again, you've got to organise hotels, training facilities, things like that, and nothing's the same. Nothing is regular. And personally, I found that a bit hard, that we didn't have the routine of where we normally were. And that Thursday, that came around really quickly. Like, you know, I don't remember it dragging. You know, time flew by a bit, and by the time you're back out on the pitch, it's yeah, you're back into it. But it's tough. And don't forget, Spurs were a good team, by the way. You know, Archibald and Crooks up front, it's not bad, is it? You know, I mean, if somebody said, who would you rather have, Stainrod and Allen up front, or Archibald and Crooks, a lot of people would say Archibald and Crooks. They'd be wrong, like, but that's what they'd say. So, but yeah, so plus obviously Glenn Hoddle. You know, any team with Glenn Hoddle in it, in his pomp, is going to be difficult to play against. So yeah, but it was hard to take losing, I have to say. But we were more or less straight on a plane to America after that, and we had the benefit in our squad of having a lad called Steve Burke, who's the funniest fella I've ever met. The next day we were flying to America, and we were in like a suite at Heathrow that they'd provided for us, and they got a few drinks in this suite. We're all having a beer and a chat and what have you, all a bit down. And Steve Burke came in and just did about an hour's show of taking people off, telling jokes, and by the time he'd finished, we'd forgotten about the final, and we were off to America to have a good time. So it was he was star man for me for the cup final, Steve Burke. He got us all in a better frame of mind.